that it is 6:31, so I open the meeting since we don't have a chair yet. So declare the meeting open. Has the new member, can you confirm that you have taken the oath of office? Have you
I
been
have.
sworn in? Thank you. Okay, so nominations are in order for the chair of the Shaftsbury School District Board of Directors. Do I have any nominations?
Nominate Ed Malloy to be the chair.
I'll second it.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for the chair? Hearing none, I'll declare the nominations closed. Do you wish to elect by acclamation since there is only one candidate? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Then I will announce that Ed Malloy is the unanimous choice for the chair, and I will hand the meeting and this sheet over to Ed.
You're glad to do that, right? Except I'll make it him move instead of him.
Oh, did I spell it wrong? Sorry. Or scratched it.
Okay, and we will make open nominations for the vice chair. Do I have any nominations for the vice chair of the board?
I'll nominate Dave Durfee.
We have a nomination. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a nomination, a second. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, declare the nominations closed, and we'll vote by acclamation for Dave Durfee for vice chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. Okay, Dave Durfee. I will open the floor for nominations for clerk. Do I have any nominations for clerk?
Everybody wants to be the
Anybody
clerk.
You nominate me.
Who was the clerk?
I was.
You were, okay.
Yeah.
I nominate Jeff Leek to be the clerk again.
We have a nomination of Jeff Leek for clerk. Do we have a second to that? We have a second. Are there any other nominations? Not hearing any other nominations. I have a motion to have Jeff by acclamation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. Okay. Now, I can do these, let's see. We're having nominations for SVSU Board of Directors. 2 members are to be nominated. And I guess Dave and I have been on.
Scott's been.
It's
Second.
alternative.
alternative.
That's the alternative. Shall we continue with that? I'm
You're
in
not gonna
favor of
be
that.
MAU, Dave?
That's the only thing I know is, yeah, Dave maybe.
MAU hasn't met yet, and
Okay.
there are, and I wasn't on this year from MAU, so,
Okay.
but that doesn't, who knows?
I'll make the nomination. We have SVSU as Ed and Dave. And Ed, yes. And Scott, are you
Sure.
attempting
Yeah.
alternative?
Mhm.
No, I'll have Scott as the alternative.
Okay.
Ed, Dave, primary, and alternative Scott.
Are there any other nominations? Well, there's a second, because I have a second to that.
I'll do so.
Okay. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Committee main, okay, anybody, let's see.
You don't
Committee
need to do
assignments?
those
I don't
tonight.
need to do
Mr. Chair.
those tonight.
Yeah.
I'll hit somebody up.
Yeah, you can send out an email and see who wants to be on those other committees.
Who wants to get off the committees they're on, or who wants to get put on one, right, Tony?
Sure.
We'll welcome Tony to the group.
Sure.
In my brief time of running the meeting, Mr. Chairperson, I did not introduce the new members, so maybe we'd
Okay.
like to do that.
Hopefully. This is, to everybody, this is Tony Donofrio, our new member, who's elected to a 3-year term. Congratulations, Tony. and welcome.
Thanks. Well, thanks.
Okay. Okay, do we have any citizens' comments tonight? Nope, no comments?
I have a
Okay.
comment, actually.
Okay, yes, we do have it.
And I know we're going to talk about school safety in a little bit, but I wanted to just ask the board to consider taking the step of, and this relates to school safety and easy access to guns. That is the cause of a lot of the conversations that we have been having.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
If we're gonna bring it up afterward, you have the comment to floor on the floor, so if
Yep.
this is just gonna be something that's on the agenda, why don't we just take it up on that?
It's not really on the agenda, but if you'd like.
Well, it is an update, we're gonna
Okay,
have,
okay.
Vic's gonna be here.
That's
and
fine,
update.
yeah, I can address it at that point. if you'd
Why
like.
don't you do it after that?
Sure.
We'll keep it everything together. Okay, next, I would like to switch, because John's gotta drive back across the mountain, switch number 4 to number 3 around. We'll have the ventilation project update next. And then after that, we'll have, update on safety and security. So, ventilation project update. Jeff, you got John. We'll just keep going right around, right? How is ours pretty well set now?
Yeah, we're up and running. They balanced it over February break, so all the rooms are getting the equal amount of air. I've monitored 4 classrooms. All 4 classrooms are showing very positive numbers, under 1,000 parts per million, which is, according to John, very acceptable. The classrooms before this were anywhere between 1,500 to 2,500 parts per million. So it's definitely been an improvement in what we've been looking for. But John,
Thank you.
I think, did you
John,
add?
John's gonna be, yeah. What do you got, John?
Well, I've got more to add. As you know, when I left the last board meeting,
This is John Penny, the engineer for the school
I
here.
was tasked with a couple of things, and I think Renee put a letter in your packet there that I had sent out that
Yep.
broke down the, basically the 3 options with dealing with the multi-zone units that we have.
If you don't have it, I do
Yeah.
have copies.
We don't have it.
No, we
No,
do.
we don't.
I think, I know when it came in after,
Maybe
right after the last one, but so it didn't get in the last one.
Well, let me just talk about that in general, and not specifically. Another thing that I was tasked with was, and I brought this up at the last meeting, was I thought that the school was due for an energy audit. And I spent a couple of phone calls with Efficiency Vermont, Sandra LaFlamme, and a fellow by the name of Jesse Friedman, who's with the Superintendent's Association. Jesse Friedman sort of took over for Norm Etkin, who did what they call really a level 1 audit for you back in 2011. The reason I went to Efficiency Vermont and Jesse Friedman at the Superintendent's Association was there's money available for what they call retro commissioning. And that is, Efficiency Vermont will give you money toward an audit to look at things that need to be upgraded in order for you to save energy. So I spoke with them, and they responded to me just yesterday with an email. I just handed it over to Renee so she can give you guys a copy. But Efficiency Vermont is willing to put up $4,000 toward an audit for the school. And I did tell them in the meeting that it would probably be something a little bit less than that. So I will put a proposal together to do that audit. And from that audit, again, back to the discussion we had at the last meeting, that audit should show you what kind of payback might be the potential for the different options that I put together for you on the multi-zone units. I will also cover some other stuff in that audit. I'm gonna look at the kitchen exhaust. That was one of the items that was sort of on our list of things to do. I'll look at the zoning of the 1956 wing, adding those thermostats in. And I'm gonna look at upgrading the controls on the unit ventilators and providing demand control ventilation at those locations as well. Those are gonna be things that'll be in that audit, and it'll give you information on what the payback might be, what the cost of implementing those things would be, and something better for you to have to make a decision on. So that's kind of my focus.
Okay, now, when is the audit? Did they tell you, give you an idea, time-wise?
Well, it's up to me, really.
Okay.
I'll get the proposal to you right away. It shouldn't take very long to do the audit. The reason it'll be probably less than $4,000 is I've already got some of that work done because I had done this other project. So it reduced the cost of doing the audit. So it's a matter of me getting you the proposal, and then you making a decision to have me go ahead if you decide to do that. But what'll happen, after I give you the proposal, and I'll copy Sandra LaFlamme on this, she will send you a letter committing to that amount of money. So there'll be a little bit of a process before I start the audit, but it can pretty much go right away.
Okay. Yeah, because we don't want to get into a bind like we did last year at the last minute, so that, we
Well, we're already
we're already
pushing up on
binded a
that
little
now.
bit, but we're better off than we were last year, but.
Yeah, we're already pushing up on that now, so it's even a little crazier this year than it was last year. There's an awful lot of work hitting the street for the contractors at the moment.
I, from my perspective, I love the thought of doing that and having that baseline so that we can know the money that we do spend, what type of impact it would have, and if we were to spend extra at this time, does it pay off? Or what type of payoff would it be? Probably not all that long, so it's nice having hard numbers.
Yeah, and I think as far as incentives go, which are things that Efficiency Vermont can also provide once there is a project, they like to have an audit to go by.
Yep.
They'll probably look for real numbers after the implementation and what changes you might have in your utilities after that in order to gauge some of that. That's the way they've been working lately. But yeah, to have the audit, at least you'll have some sort of a baseline for which to work from.
It's great.
Anybody else got any questions for John? I think, go ahead.
Well, not about that, but were you gonna talk about the thermostats? Was that something we need to?
That
Make
was
a
in the,
decision
I
on-
put something in the letter.
Yeah.
You know what I did do is I brought I spoke with Efficiency Vermont about these thermostats, and I brought a cut sheet here of it. And I sent one over to Marcus Jones, who's the fellow from Efficiency Vermont who sort of oversees this school. And he's gonna check and see if there's incentive money for this. So he's looking it over, and he's gotta go back to their office and talk it over with the group that decides what they would allow for something like this. So, yes, this is something in the works. Renee, if you wanna take this, I can leave this with you. If you wanna pass it out to the board at some point, you
Okay.
Yeah, because I
can
think,
read it over.
I think that's one thing that we want to do is to see if we can if it would be advantageous to put the thermostats in each one of the rooms and things like
Yeah.
that, because we haven't set up for that.
Yeah, we're putting in 14 new valves
Yeah.
in that wing, so it'll be 14 thermostats.
Yeah. So is there any urgency to doing that?
That's probably a much smaller project, and I'll have to talk to Hayden. Maybe they're ones that would want to just do that work as part of installing the valves, which they still need to do, which is going to come up immediately when school closes. They'll come in and they'll drain the system down and cut those valves in. So if we can have something in place, prior to the end of school, I think we got plenty of time. But I'll be able to do this in the audit as well, so this will give you some baseline feedback on what kind of savings you can expect by zoning that end of the building. So,
Anybody else have any questions for John? Thanks, John. Yeah, so you'll get those things to us and,
Yeah, I'll get this
we'll go
early
on to
next week.
that.
I'll have it for you, and we can make a decision from there.
Yeah, because I know, well, as you say, we won't be able to do anything about the thermostats until the end of the year anyway, so, a lot of this stuff.
You have time on that.
Yeah,
But if you decide to do something else with those multi-zone units, that's something that there's gonna be a little bit of work that has to go on
Yeah.
ahead of time. I mean, for the most part, well, depending on the decision, I mean, for instance, if you had decided that you would stay with option one, which was what was part of the original project, to just, rebuild these existing units, say you decided to do that, that work is pretty much done. If we decide to go one of the other routes that I put in this letter, that would require a little bit of design work in order to put that together,
okay,
all right?
yep. What else, got anything for John? Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Now we'll go on to the update on the safety and security protocol. Vic?
First, let me say, I just want to remind people why we're doing this tonight. So about 15 months ago, the SVSU added the school safety coordinator, Vic Milani, who is a full-time employee of MAU, but this is a stipend position with the SVSU, very critical. And in light of what happened in Parkland, Florida last year, and some of the threats that have happened earlier this year, and what is a month ago, and the threats that have happened in this state, we thought it would be wise to update all the boards. So in the month of March, Vic is going to the boards. Some of you might have already seen some of this at the SVSU. Going over school safety, what has happened in the past 15 months under Vic's direction, and what we have planned in the upcoming near future.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, pleasure to be here with you this evening. As Jim said, we began this project about 15 months ago. And I have to compliment Jim on his insight in seeing that there was certainly a value to focus on school safety and security. And fortunately, we began to get into this work when we did. So what you have, I think, in your handout packet is you have a handout that's entitled School Board Update on Safety and Security Protocol and Initiatives. And what I'd like to do is just speak to each of those points and just elaborate a little bit more on what I said in those bulleted points, and then certainly give an opportunity for anybody to ask any questions that they might have. As you might recall, in one of our previous meetings, we talked about one of the first things that we thought was essential is that we look at each building in the SVSU and do a safety assessment. And that assessment really involved looking at three aspects of security: the entry protocol, the telephone communication system, and the camera monitoring. And as far as Shaftsbury is concerned, the entry protocol was good. We certainly have an air phone with monitored entry, so we were very pleased to see that. Unfortunately, the telephone communication system left a little bit to be desired, and in some of our initial conversations, I was astounded to hear that if the temperature outside goes below 20 degrees, it makes it impossible in some cases to be able to receive incoming telephone calls. So we certainly felt that that was something that had to be rectified as quickly as possible. So again, we did ask that an amount of money be included in the budget for us to be able to hopefully explore the possibility of having a new telephone network. And Jeff tells me that that's out to bid.
Well, we're working on that.
Okay.
Working on the RFP net out, yeah.
All right. So we're very happy about that. Camera monitoring is something that we also discussed, the possibility of having some perimeter cameras. And the reason for that is really twofold. First of all, if there was some suspicious activity that we might learn about after the fact, we have the ability to, by archiving, go in by camera and be able to look at that area that this suspicious activity might have been occurring. And in addition to that, certainly, we would be concerned about unlawful entries in the evening hours. And again, we would look at cameras that have the ability to be able to, in very limited light, be able to give us archiving ability as well. And again, I'm happy to say that the school committee has, again, agreed that this might be something we should explore and investigate. So that's something in the works as well. The second point really involves a training that all of our reception and secretarial staff that grant access to the building must attend. And Mr. Culkeen mandated that anybody who works in that capacity and provides access to any of our buildings must attend this full-day training. I'm happy to say that we had the first session of that training on January 26th. We had 26 participants from around the district. The evaluations came back extremely positive. The training really consists of 19 videoed scenarios where we have them evaluated in groups, and then what we do is a module of instruction that relates to each of those scenarios. So we are having the second session of that to again allow for all of our staff at all of our schools, because obviously we couldn't leave schools without reception and secretarial staff, so we split it over 2 days. The second session is occurring this Friday. So we're looking forward to doing that, and again, having everybody trained on how to recognize what constitutes suspicious activity, trained in being able to provide accurate physical descriptions, being able to deal with people who are displaying emotion, whether it be crying, whether it be agitated, or in some cases violent. So again, we're happy that we'll have everybody trained by the end of this week. Third point really talks about the emergency operation plan that the superintendent gave me a date of starting of school this year to have an emergency operation plan developed for each school in the district. We've accomplished that. You are familiar, I think, with the fact that these emergency operation plans really spell out a protocol for high, medium threats and hazards, and procedures and protocols to follow in the event that we are confronted with one of those. In addition, we have the lockdown protocol, as well as stage 1 to 3 evacuation procedures at a reunification site that is designated for that stage 3 evacuation. Stage 1 evacuation is a fire drill. Stage 2 evacuation is kind of an on-site evacuation if it's going to be a prolonged period of time. And again, that involves the Shaftsbury Fire Station, and our Stage 3 evacuation site is the United Methodist Church. We have memorandums of understanding, both with the Shaftsbury Fire Department as well as the Methodist Church. So we are ready to go in the event we have to use either of those two facilities. The next point really talks about the fact that we were concerned about the fact that we had buildings in the SVSU that the perimeter was accessible by members of the public during the school day. They were unlocked. And we thought that that was something we had to correct immediately. And so I'm happy to report at this point that all of our student-occupied buildings throughout the entire district are locked and secured during the day. And again, we have made provisions. We've added fob entries to these for faculty and staff. We have the airphones for members of the public or vendors that might be visiting those schools. So again, we really have a secure perimeter in all of our buildings at this point, and that is a major breakthrough for us, and we're very happy with that. The next point talks about the fact that in some of the things that Mr. Colkeen and some of the events that have occurred over the past year, and specifically more often over the next 6 months, we have asked schools to include in their budgets monies to allow for police presence at schools. We have that police presence at the high school, at the junior high, and we even have some police presence at elementary schools within the district. In addition to that, we work very closely with our community partners, and the community partners are the law enforcement. Most of the schools, all of the schools in Bennington, our community partner is the Bennington Police Department. We couldn't be happier with the cooperation we've received from Chief Doucette and the entire Bennington Police Department, and we work very closely with them on a daily basis. They collaborate with us in the designing safety plans and new initiatives for safety and security. So they are a great asset to the school system, and we appreciate them collaborating with us and cooperating with us and supporting us the way they do. We now, at the high school, for instance, we, members of our security team, our security management team, are on the same frequency as the police department. We can directly communicate with officers of the department as well as notify Bennington Dispatch. So again, that is all part of our community partnership. The next point really relates to, we felt that we have to have an identification system to be able to identify. We're most concerned about visitors who would come to our respective schools. But certainly we have to deal with giving adequate identification to substitutes. And also we have to have a system in place to really help us manage tardies as well as early dismissals, because we have to account for all persons present at any point should there be an emergency situation in our buildings. We have asked for a system called Identikid, and Identikid is a system that we piloted at the high school. We've asked principals and their reception staff to come out to the high school, and again, the SVSU through Renee and the superintendent have approved and allocated monies for this Identikid system for all schools within the district. So Shaftsbury is slated to get this system. What it does is a touch screen computer. Once entry is granted by whoever is monitoring the access point, they would come up to a touch screen computer. They would designate themselves as either a visitor or a substitute. It would take a photo. It would record the date and the time that they entered the building, and it would create a log. So at any point in time, we know who's in the building. It also has been a great asset at the high school, where we deal with many tardy students arriving on a daily basis. Again, this protocol, they wouldn't take their photo, but it prints out a tardy pass. Again, it would be the time and date they arrived. This is what would be presented to their teachers as they arrive in the classroom, and again, giving us that hard copy to know exactly who's in the building. Same kind of procedure for early dismissal. Sometimes students have early dismissal and permission to leave early, whether it be a doctor's appointment or some type of event that they've got to attend, sometimes career fairs and colleges. So again, this particular system lets us track them and lets us print these early dismissal passes. So we've been very happy with that Identikid system. I think you'll be very happy with it as well. And again, as I say, you'll be hopefully having that in place for the start of the next academic year. Last point on the first page talks about purchase of an AED device, and that is an automatic external defibrillator. And this recommendation comes from Rob Evans, who is the liaison to the Agency of Education, who visited the SVSU with us this past summer. And he felt that it would be important for us to have in each building one of these AED devices. Now, certainly at the elementary school level, we would probably have adult pads as well as child or pediatric pads, which allows for defibrillation of a child as well as an adult. Again, we have made provisions, I believe, Renee, correct me if I'm wrong, that we have that allocation in the budgets for each of our schools.
We're actually gonna do it this year
Okay.
in all the schools.
Okay, so again, you'll probably be receiving that again, or hopefully purchasing that sometime after the beginning of the next academic year, certainly after July of this year. Going on to the second page, each of our schools have a safety committee, and that safety committee is there to receive any concerns or issues that any staff or faculty member might have. They bring it to the committee, they discuss that, and again, we look at it, and I communicate with all of the principals, and if there is an issue that we have to discuss related to safety and security at a respective school, we certainly do that. So we're trying to stay on top of things. We must be proactive. We can't fall back on just being reactive to a situation that presents itself as an emergency situation. So we have to anticipate what are some of the hazards and threats that we might face, have those protocols in place, and be proactive to be able to address them should they occur. The next point talks to the fact that our community partners do meet regularly with the safety teams. I mentioned to you a few minutes ago the excellent rapport and cooperation we have from the Bennington Police Department. We are scheduled, in fact, this Monday morning. The superintendent, myself, and Jeff will be meeting with representatives of the state police, who are the law enforcement authority here. I've also invited Chief Doucette to that meeting as well, because it's important that we all collaborate. All law enforcement, the state police should know what the Bennington police are doing and vice versa as it relates to safety in the schools. So we will have that meeting on Monday morning. That has been a directive from Rebecca Holcomb from the Agency of Education, as well as the Director of Public Safety for the state, that we look at that, and law enforcement evaluates and completes a questionnaire on each school within the state. So we'll be meeting on Monday morning to discuss that. The next point relates to the fact that we are mandated by the Agency of Education as well as law to conduct drills. And the schedule is that we have to conduct 6 egress drills each year and 5 containment drills. And we do that on a rotating basis. One month we do a containment drill, the next month we do an egress drill. The month of September we begin doing both, and then we move to an egress in October. And again, throughout the school year, we'll be doing 6 egress and 5 lockdowns. And that is mandated for us to do, and record the times essentially that it takes to conduct those drills and any issues that occurred during those drills. We also have in place now a protocol for orders of no trespass. Unfortunately, there are individuals of concern for one reason or another that we don't feel are appropriate to be on a respective school campus. The administration can issue one of these orders of no trespass that would be served by law enforcement on the identified individual, and that individual would be notified that they are prohibited from being on campus. If there is any reason that they have to be on campus, they first have to seek permission of the administration of the respective school in order to do that. So we have that in place. We use that quite frequently at the high school. The next point really relates to the fact that, let's see, monthly evaluation. Okay, I kind of addressed that. We'll move to the fact that we wanted to make sure that students are protected at all times. And one of the problems that we've had in some of our schools is the fact that there are interior doors that allow access from one classroom to the next. And the problem that presents is, should we go into lockdown and a faculty member or a staff member has left a classroom unlocked, what that means is any perpetrator can gain access to multiple rooms by entering through that unlocked door. So this has been really a change in culture. I think faculty and staff have been accustomed to the fact that if they're running down to make a copy for perhaps the copier is in another room, they've left their door unlocked. And we've had to stress to them that this could really constitute a severe threat to safety should an intruder, should a perpetrator enter the building and want to commit some sort of violent act. Because by leaving that door unlocked, that perpetrator now has access to multiple rooms that are student occupied. So we have asked every faculty and staff member at any time that they leave a room to make sure that it's locked. And similar to the fact we get out of our cars, we're accustomed to locking. We leave our homes, we lock them. So again, it's been a change in culture, but I'm happy to report that, again, everybody is complied. They realize the reason that we're asking them to do this and how important it is. And obviously nobody, no faculty or staff member wants to put anybody's life or safety at risk. So again, that's been working very well. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's so important that we remain proactive. And every time we have one of these unfortunate incidents, we evaluate that. We look at it. What can we learn from that? What could we have done better? And we have to remain proactive, and we have to continue to do that. So these emergency operation plans, what we do as a district as far as safety and security, it's going to be ever-changing. It's going to be dynamic. The superintendent, the assistant superintendent, myself have attended various trainings that relate to safety and security. We have every intention of continuing to do that. Again, two of the areas that I felt we really have to address are also indicated in the last section of this handout, and that was the school bus training, particularly to elementary school students. I've had several conversations with Mike Gardner of Dufort Transportation. There has been some training in emergency bus evacuation, but there's been no training in safety. What do children do at the bus stop when they wait? How do children board the bus? What should they be doing on the bus? How do they exit from the bus? These are all things that we really want our young elementary students to be aware of. And what we're going to do for this age group is kind of a hands-on training. I've developed the training now. We have the SVSU Safety Committee, and I've presented it to them. They're now evaluating it and reviewing it. We've written a letter to the parents that the parents would receive, indicating that we're going to be conducting this training. It's also going to be talking about now the fact that our buses are all monitored by video camera that also has sound. And again, this is for the protection of their children. So again, I would say certainly by the next school year, we would be doing on-site training of these elementary school students. We'd be bringing a bus here. We'd actually be demonstrating what we want them to do and what we don't want them to do. So that will be in the very near future. The other area of training that I was concerned about is the front desk training that I spoke to you about earlier that we've already done. Some of the comments were all faculty and staff should have this training. We really feel it's appropriate for them, it's important. We wanted to make the training more relevant to faculty and staff. And the National Fire Academy has developed some standards for active shooter and hostile event preparedness and response training that really involves threats and threats assessment. And we really feel that that's the most appropriate thing for a faculty or staff member. What are the different types of threats? How do you evaluate a threat? How do you assess a threat? And my proposal that's going before the SVSU Safety Committee, I've developed this training, it's in the process, it should be done in the next few weeks. I will present that to them, and my intention is to go around to each school, and during an annual faculty meeting, a regular faculty meeting that occurs in a month, give me that hour during that month to be able to train faculty and staff in this threat and threat assessment, so they can be proactive along with us. So we have some other types of training we're thinking about, and certainly we'll keep you posted on that. So that's kind of really where we are, and that's what we've accomplished over the last 14 or 15 months. But we're not going to, sit back and rest on our laurels. We're going to continue to move forward, and we're going to continue to be proactive. And the superintendent and myself talk certainly several times a week as it relates to safety and security concerns. And we're going to stay on top of things, and we're going to make sure that we can provide the safest and securest environment for all of our buildings in the district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
No. Okay.
So,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
shall I
Yes.
speak now about that? So, first of all, I want to say I've heard you speak, Vic, several times, once already this year after the incident, and it's always reassuring to know that we have plans, procedures, and protocols in place, and that you're giving it so much thought, and that we have a professional who's leading these efforts. What I want to suggest, at least suggest the board consider, is the idea that as the entity that's responsible for safety of students, that we also think beyond, what do we do in case of emergency, to what can be done to prevent these emergencies from happening in the first place. And as I started to say earlier, the easy access that we as a society have to guns is the root of the problem. So, just very briefly, what I'm hoping is that the board would consider a resolution to our elected state level representatives, encouraging them, urging them to vote in favor of legislation that's currently under discussion, to limit easy access to guns. And specifically, if we want to be specific, the Senate, as I understand, has approved a bill that would increase the minimum age to purchase a long gun to 21. The governor has indicated that he would sign it, and it's going to the House now. The House would need to approve it first. Florida, the progressive state of Florida, has already done this. So it seems like Vermont shouldn't be far behind. And is it our role to do that? I guess maybe a question that people have. I would say, yeah, I think maybe it is our role to encourage our legislators to approve new laws, new statutes that would make the school safer, arguably. So that's my fairly long-winded, suggestion. And I would like to hear what other people think too. And again, it's a resolution to Alice Miller, Dick Sears, and Brian.
My comments, I think, if you want to, I don't think as a board as itself, but individually, as you can say when you talk to one of your representatives, or contact them, one way or the other, is individually, if you want to do it. I don't think it's in the realm of the board. We're trying, that's getting beyond what I think we have. Maybe not. But I think we should take. I think we should.
I think that's a fair argument. I'd say that school boards routinely make recommendations to the legislature on policy, and that this is out of the ordinary. I think the Burlington School Board met and approved something similar several weeks ago. So it's not completely unprecedented, but it's not something that we're in the habit of doing. And I would also just say that while we're not saying anything about this issue, the legislature is being lobbied by other organizations with different agendas, honestly, that are speaking. They've taken on school safety as if they're the experts, as if they are the ones who are responsible and accountable. Well, I think that we're the ones who are responsible and accountable, not other organizations. So,
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think we're responsible in the fact that we have people like Vic coming in here and promoting things that are for safety inside the school. That's just my opinion. I don't know if anybody else has got an opinion, but that's my opinion. And I'm glad that Vic is doing a great job.
Thank you.
I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, and if other people don't have a particularly strong view on it, we don't need to go around the room, but I wanted to put it out there.
I had a question
Sure.
for Vic. The meeting with the state police that you guys are gonna have, is that potentially for police presence in the school? Is that what we're gonna talk about, or?
No,
No.
what it is the Rebecca Holcomb, who's the aide from the Agency of Education, has indicated that she wants law enforcement to complete a questionnaire that relates to what is currently in place as far as safety and security measures within a school. It has nothing about increased police presence or anything in that regard. Certainly, that's going to be up to an individual school district, school boards to make decisions, okay? So again, that's going to occur Monday morning. That will occur in every school within the district and every school within the state. But that's the purpose of that. The state just wants to see how far each district has come and each school has come as far as ensuring safety and security. I've seen the survey. I'm happy to say that we are going to get very high marks. We're right on target for everything that they've expected and they've asked us to do. So we're in good shape. But to answer your question again, it doesn't talk about more police presence in any particular school.
Has the board considered that for this school?
No,
Not yet,
No.
not that I'm aware of.
no.
Are other elementary schools in district?
Right now, just Bennington Elementary School has detailed officers when available, but not an SRO or school resource officer, not
It's not like the
permanently
middle or
assigned.
high school.
Hmm?
It's not like the middle or high school where
Right,
they have somebody.
correct. Where they have middle school has a school resource officer, and the high school has contracted services with Bennington Police Department, and the Career Development Center uses detailed officers from Bennington Police Department. The problem with that is they're not always available.
I guess from a financial point, what the district pays for the school resource officer at the middle school, correct?
Mhm.
What would that look like from a budgetary point, I guess? That'll answer your
Yeah.
question.
Right.
I
I
mean, if
and I don't know
it's-
how it works here, because I don't know
Yeah.
the state police providing any school
Yeah.
resource officers at
I
all.
don't
No,
think
I
they
mean, it might not be state police, but, you'd look at a full
Sure.
salary for an officer. Do we know what is it in the middle school budget? We could find the number?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not their full salary, because
Yeah.
what happens is we have to coordinate with in this case, the Bennington Police
Yeah.
Department, because the officer is employed year-round, so
Mhm.
they have to put money in their budget.
For-
We have to put money in our budget. There has to be an officer that wants to go through the training to become a school resource officer.
Mhm.
And that's why, honestly, some of the schools are using detailed officers, because
Yes.
there's just not enough
Officers.
officers to go
And
around.
the force, because I know there's a shortage, so,
Yeah.
the question is, if you got one, would it be pulled for regular duty? And that's, I think, the other thing is.
Right.
Yeah. And it can be, because they're police officers first and school resource officers
Yes.
second. Yeah.
Anybody else?
I guess back to Dave's resolution question, since we're jumping around. I think, as individuals, we should write letters. I think as a board, maybe you can encourage school safety as a whole, but, not put a lot of detail into what they should vote for. Because then it starts putting board members' precedents. 'Cause some might feel differently about school safety
Mm.
than about guns and age limits. I mean, I'd hate to speak for anybody here, but it really could put board members at odds. because we could all stand at, 5 different points of view. But I mean, I think if you look at school safety and money for school safety, I think that'd probably be a better way to think about it. Because it could be resource officers, more money for cameras instead of coming out of local budgets, instead of actual gun policy changes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I guess my thought on that is that we are, we're responsible for safety. We're also responsible for keeping spending at, a level that taxpayers can afford. And we're forced into a position
Yes.
because of the easy access that we have to guns.
Yeah.
We're forced into a position to spend money on these programs.
Mhm.
And that there's a logical then argument that says, okay, and I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't spend this money. What choice do we have
Mhm.
if we want to be responsible?
Yeah.
But that it doesn't have to stop there.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, Jim?
So, remember when we filed a Section
Thank you,
9
Vic.
report on Act 36?
Yeah.
Now we've heard from the Secretary of Education, she has proposed dates that she would like to meet with boards and superintendents. So today I got a lengthy email with all these different dates, so I'll be in consulting with Ed. The meetings are all in Barry, so I don't know who wants to go other than me. But she has to do road trip.
Not really.
So, and I gotta coordinate how many of these, so, and there's no more than 3 time slots per any one day. So, of course, RSU needs more than 3 time slots, so I guess I'm looking for at least 2 days to go to Barry. She has to file, the Secretary of Education has to file by the law a Section 10 report, which is about how she's gonna move forward with consolidation. So she wants to have, and this was in quotes in the email, conversations with school boards who filed their Section 9 and their superintendent. So I'll get those dates and I'll send them, I'll work with Karen to coordinate it with all the different boards to see who's available, who wants to go. And then we have to send that in. This was an email blast that went out to all other schools that are that had filed Section 9s, which means they did not consolidate. So some of those time slots will start to go, and the ones that we want, we might not get. So wanted to make you aware of that, because the Secretary of Education has until June to file her report to the State Board of Education, and the State Board of Education has till November to tell us all what they see their plans for future consolidation will be, and then there's a public comment period, and we get to react and counter proposal. So it's far from over, and the process is, just want to let you know.
Is there any, so it has to be with the individual school boards?
That was the email, 'cause I got an email that, it says SVSU, and it lists all the individual, Pownell, Woodford, Shaftsbury, Bennington, and we're to select a time slot to meet with Brad James, who is the finance director for the Agency of Education, and Rebecca Holcomb. So half-hour time slots with them.
Could we possibly meet with Bennington?
Yeah, that's,
and ask whether we
and
could-
I'm also, I just got this email thing, I'm gonna wonder if we can do a time slot and even let some people Skype in, or you go to central office and, maybe I'm up in Barry and you guys go to central office and Skype in. We'll work it out. The logistics of it seems a little daunting, but I think we need to be heard.
We're looking to try and be more efficient.
Good point, Scott.
The other thing I wanted to address is snow days. So I don't seem to be able to get some of these calls right lately, or at least according to my emails. We've had quite the winter so far, and somebody before the meeting began said they heard a snowstorm for Tuesday next week. I hope they're wrong. I heard that rumor too, but I'm just going to ignore it for a while. Just to go over the process for how I decide whether I'm going to do a delay or cancel school, because Starts around 4:30 in the morning with me reviewing weather reports. The regional superintendents get an email from the National Weather Service out of the Albany office. Talk to the bus contractor. They're in contact with the road crews, giving road condition reports. I hear from the facility directors at the schools on are they going to get the schools done. I sometimes consult with principals on the same issue. So like weather forecasting, deciding whether we're going to cancel or delay school is not an exact science. Sometimes I get it right. Sometimes it seems a lot of people felt I should have not canceled school yesterday, but it really depended where you were driving in our far-flung district. Yeah, and roads might have been wet in Bennington, but they weren't here. And then today, we went with a 1 hour delay, which was unusual. My true belief when I get the request for a delay, and honestly, it usually comes from the bus company. You know, that's bus company tells me they can put the buses on the road, then we're running school. When they tell me I don't think I can run my buses up into Shaftsbury or what, I'm not going to overrule them and say no. You're going to put those buses on the road because student safety has to come first. Though, as I drove in this morning, I questioned myself whether that was the right call today. Road conditions were not good, but at 5 o'clock in the morning, because my drop dead time is probably 5:30 that I have to make the decision by, because the bus barn is already coming alive to start the runs for the high school, so, and clearing off their buses. So I've talked to Mike Gardner from Dufour Bus Company more times than I want to this winter. I wish it's summer already. I am meeting with the Teachers Association tomorrow afternoon. We have regularly monthly meetings, but the topic tomorrow is how we make up these days, because that is a misconception. I know that you all understand this, but I've gotten some emails from people that think we don't. It's not a day off really for teachers. The teachers, as you know, are contracted to work the same amount of days, so those days will be added to the end of the year, and students have to go at least 175 days in the state of Vermont. We schedule for 180 plus 5 snow days. So right now, I think, is it the 27th is the last day for students? The 27th of June is the last day. The 28th of June is the last day for staff, because there was one of the days that we canceled was professional development day. So because everyone's salary is predicated on that per diem rate, that day has to be made up, or they would lose that day's pay. There are some ways that we are talking about, like possibly a virtual professional development day, which would be like they would log in, and we also talked about possible to do the professional development day on Memorial Day. That was more of a discussion when the last day of school was going to be the 22nd, and then the teachers would have to come back on Monday. But now that we're into that next week, I'm not really sure. But we are going to meet into. I've heard some of the suggestions from people is, why don't we add an hour to each day and we'll make up almost a week? And it's really not that simple, because it's already a contracted day with people. So if I said we're going to start it, I don't know what staff attendance would be and impact on teachers who are enrolled in masters or the current continuing ed programs, and they need to. It's just it would be. It sounds good when you first say it, and then it really wouldn't work in the long run. And never mind what we can impact with childcare for parents and all that. But we're not ruling out anything. There are no plans at this time to cancel April vacation. That's another thing that I've been asked about. But people have made their travel plans. I know that attendance would be severely impacted if we did that. So then I'm asked, well, can we get a waiver from the state? When I go over the criteria for doing a waiver, I don't believe we would get one at this time, because I'm not canceling April vacation, because the first thing the state would say, you still have the opportunity to make up that time. What I would have considered, we schedule 180 days. By law, they only have to go 175, and if you remember, past couple of years, I've asked the boards to forgive student days that go into, like, I think last year we had to come back, it would have been just for a Monday.
Yeah.
So we said, let the students finish on Friday, and the staff will still show for an in-service day. So, that sounds good. Maybe I could still have the students end on the 22nd, the staff comes in, except for Bennington. They started school 5 days late because of their construction project. So on the 27th of June, BSD students will only be at 175 student days. So I could say, well, everybody else is done 5 days earlier, and Bennington students still have to go another 5 days, but I don't think that would be too popular. So just want to make you aware we are dealing with it. I truly hope that we don't have another snow day. But this winter is reminding me, and this is going back years and years and years, my senior year in high school, we had a snow day in May. I do remember that, and I remember the only good thing coming out of this is this is a great year to be a senior in high school, because you won't make these days up, so.
So, the last snow day was built into for Monday, I think, if I looked at it, June 25th, correct?
27th.
Was it 27th?
Yeah.
Is that the amended calendar? 'Cause I thought the 25th.
Well, the calendar says the last day of school is
22nd.
the 22nd, but that's with 5 snow days.
Okay.
That only has 5 snow days built into the calendar, so we have to keep adding days after that.
Mhm.
And I agree that that's confusion, and when we're in the draft form for the calendar for this year, it's pretty much done. We changed that
Yep.
verbiage on the end of it, because some people
Mhm.
thought that no matter what, the last day of school is the 22nd of June,
Yeah.
and that's not really the reality, because
Mhm.
if we ended it earlier, teachers would lose per diem pay, and we wouldn't make the legal obligation for how many days students need to be in school. The only other thing I have is I'm gonna pass around the Board of Directors sheet. This is the current address and phone numbers. Since we've reorganized tonight, it's a good time to do this. You could look for that and see if there's any changes in your contact information. And I waited till we knew who the new chair was going to be, and I have the latest copy of the Vermont law. We get 1 copy per board, so
Anybody else want to read this?
so you can, feel free to share
It's
that,
small print.
Ed, with whoever you want to, but that's my report for this evening. If you don't have any
Tony,
questions.
You have to read this whole book by next week.
All right.
Oh, there is
Write note?
there is a
Yeah.
test for all new board members on that.
Hazing.
Okay.
No. If you don't have any questions, I'm gonna try and make another meeting, so. Are there? No. Thank you.
Okay. Go to the treasurer's report.
I do.
Anybody have any questions on that?
Treasurer's report.
We talked about, we got that nice donation from the Robert Frost Museum, and I don't know if that was already accounted for, but we were talking about creating a fund for
Yeah.
that, which hasn't happened yet, but will happen.
Yeah, and we don't necessarily have to have it in a separate bank account.
Mhm.
We can account for it on our books separately, so that money stays isolated.
Okay.
And is used specifically for the funds it
Yeah, I
was
think that's
intended
what they
for.
told us last month.
We used, so we, like, for example, is the KIP fund a separate bank account, and that's why it
Yeah.
shows up as a line, as an item at the bottom of the
Yeah.
report.
So,
Okay.
Okay. Then we'll go to budget transfer. Have a motion to move the cash as so.
I'll make the motion to move the cash.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
And this is for training, Jeff?
This was actually, this was for training for our paraprofessionals, our service day. I think in January we had it.
For AED and CPR?
AD and CPR, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So all teachers, pairs are?
Not all
certified?
teachers yet. We're working on the teachers.
Okay.
But this was the paras was the first round.
And who's doing the training? Is it rescue squad, fire department? or
American
just-
Heart Association.
Okay.
Do we have to approve any dollar amount that's shifted around between accounts like this, or is there a,
When it's from one section of the budget to another section of the budget,
yeah,
it's coming from my principal's account
Yeah.
area to contracted services for the nurse. The board needs approval for
and
that.
dollar
It's
amount
been the
notwithstanding?
history of this board to approve them. It's not that way for
Oh.
all
Uh-huh.
school districts,
Oh.
but that's the way that
So
this
it's the
board has
history,
been.
and, I mean, we could decide to change that if this board, as it's now constituted, said, don't worry about.
You're setting the budget, you're approving the budget,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know, if
As
you
long
wanna-
as it
Okay.
comes to zero at the end of the year, we're okay.
Okay, good to know.
Yes, it is.
That gives you thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go to vote.
So we have a
Okay.
motion for the budget transfer.
Yep. Need a second, vote.
You got a motion and a
I
second?
think we
Yep,
already
I
did.
motioned.
You did, right?
Yep.
Scott said.
Scott seconded it.
Time to vote.
Okay, we've had our Jackson. All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried. Okay. Procedure for executing we did the budget transfer. That's
Yeah.
that one.
Set an agenda now.
Yep. Procedure for executing contracts.
Yeah, there's a tuition approval on there prior to
Yeah.
that.
The amended
What's it
agenda.
up there?
I think
Should be
you did
two.
Amended agenda. No, that's all right. What is it? Tuition approval, okay.
So we have two applications that have gone through the paperwork with North Bennington and been all cleared. Just need your approval to accept them as students or incoming kindergartners for next year.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to accept them.
Second.
And this is for the report and the agenda.
No,
And
this
it's-
is
Just the
for
tuition.
tuition
Just the
approval
tuition,
for
okay.
North Bennington. 2 students, right, Jeff?
Correct.
Okay. They're coming into what, kindergarten?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried. Okay. Consent agenda
We still have to do the
with procedure
procedure, yeah.
for executing contracts.
So the way that the statute currently is written is that the chair or any person designated who is done so, their appointment is done so and recorded in the minutes, can sign contracts on behalf of the school board. Technically, a purchase order is a contract, which I have had my signature on, so because the board has not authorized me or anybody else for that matter, it being recorded in the minutes as having that authority, technically not in alignment with state statute. So what I've asked is that once we have our reorganization every March, we'll ask the boards to authorize the superintendent or his or her designee to execute contracts on behalf of the Shaftsbury School District. And then we just have to have it recorded in the minutes. So we have, contracted service agreements like Jeff might be signing, if he has a consultant come in, the puppeteers that come in. Right now, we would actually need the board chair to be signing all the purchase orders, all of these types of agreements. Any type of large, contract award will certainly come to the board, but the day-to-day operations, we just want to make sure that we're covered.
Okay, so we need a motion to let the superintendent's office or some designee of that office to be able to sign the contracts for the school or the chair. Or his designee. I guess that's basically what we're looking for.
So moved.
I'll second it.
So we're adding or the chair or his
The
designee?
law already says the chair.
So we
Well,
don't need,
I didn't wanna just have I just didn't think if you had just that in it, that
Right,
would limit it to
right.
that, so you had that too.
Chair, superintendent.
All set?
Hmm?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Right.
So, question, does that have anything to do with the cover page of the vouchers that has a place for a signature and it's
That's actually, those
historically
are
not?
canned reports
Yeah.
that are in our software.
Yeah,
By statute, we have to have the chair, or a majority sign off on those. So that's why when we do the consent agenda, we make sure that the majority signs, or on the off cycles, we make sure that the chair or vice chair has the authority to sign.
so
if we have-
our signature on the, when we circulate the,
You're approving money to actually be
and
expended.
is that essentially substituting for this?
What you're signing is actually a compilation of multiple warrants. So
Right,
instead of going
right.
through and signing each individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have multiple warrants, there's 2 or 3 usually in each one?
Yes.
Okay, right.
Yeah, payroll and
Okay.
accounts payable.
Okay, so now we're on the consent agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Can I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move we accept it.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
For the minutes, no. I was sad to see that Colleen left mid-year, since that's consent agenda. I know she'll be missed.
And I would just welcome Amy on behalf of the board. She's gonna be the new face of the
She
school
is.
for parents.
Yeah.
Well, one of the new faces anyway.
Yes.
A face.
Yep. Yeah, it should be a good addition. Thank you.
Well, hopefully we'll say, welcome Amy, hope you welcome us. and we can-
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Right?
Opposed or extension? Covered? Okay. Policies. There's a one policy that we're talking about. Superintendent evaluation and review. Anything exciting about this, Scott?
No.
Do we have a motion to accept this?
I'll make to
well, we got-
adopt.
we gotta-
This is to adopt.
We gotta adopt it.
I'll
I'll
make a
make the
motion.
motion. Let's back in. I'll second it.
Discussion? No discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Adopted.
Not each page, there's two copies.
Let's see, you got anything on facilities, Jeff?
No action items for facilities or personnel.
Nothing there, nothing there. How about principals report?
Yes. As Vic mentioned, on Monday morning at 9:30, we'll be meeting with the state police. He stole some of my thunder there. Just a quick assessment of our procedures and our protocols for safety and security, which I agree with him. I think we're going to do very well on that. I've talked with the lieutenant over the state police. He's looking forward to coming over with Mr. Doucette and looking things over. Tomorrow night, we will have our annual 5th grade science fair from 6 to 7 p.m. here at the school. You can see some of the projects are being displayed currently. They've been working on the projects for the last several weeks. They developed thesis statements. They developed the whole experiment. They performed the experiment. They proved or disproved their thesis statement. They've also incorporated a little extra technology into it this year with some of our items from our makerspace with the things called wiki circuits, where kids are actually recording pieces and there's a little you're able to touch a project and it explains a video comes up and the students explaining what the project was about and stuff. So it's pretty neat. If any board members get a chance to pop in, we'd appreciate it. But it's from 6 to 7 again tomorrow night. Our annual 6th grade spaghetti dinner is at the end of the month on March 30th from 5 to 7 p.m. here at the school. It's always well attended. It's always good food, good time. This 6th grade will be helping serve food, as well as there will be a silent auction and a lottery tree. Our band and chorus will be playing for entertainment. And this money helps with graduation, cost of graduation in the yearbooks. So I think most people in this room have probably been there at least once, if not more. But it's always a good time. So if you're available on March 30th from 5 to 7, we'd love to have you. And I'd like to give a big thank you to our Shaftsbury Literacy Committee. We had another successful literacy night on March 1st. This year's theme was STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. And we had various committee members in that field reading books to students in different classrooms around the STEM field. Very well attended. We had a great time. There was a little write-up in the banner about it if you saw it. Each student received a free book. It was a lot of fun. We had a cupcake contest around STEM. Kids brought in cupcakes they made the night before, and they all had STEM-themed cupcakes, and we voted on them as a school. But it was a good time, and the literacy team worked very hard on that, so I want to thank them for that hard work. That's all I have, Ed.
Okay, I don't have anything exciting except to welcome Tony to our group. Congratulations, Tony. I don't have, anybody got anything else they want to say? And just that the next regular meeting will be April 11th. And before you leave, come over and tell me what committee you want to be on, or else I'll put me on one yourself, and then you may not want it. What we got? Let's go back to close to this. Let's put it with that. Okay, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Tony seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, adjourned.